Good morning to everybody joining us this morning on our webinar. We're just going to give a few moments for everybody to log in and join us before we start. But a big welcome to everybody this morning. If you just want to pop into the chat, maybe whilst we're waiting for people to join, perhaps where you're joining us from and maybe what the weather's like where you are. I'm sat here in sunny Worcestershire where the sun is absolutely glorious for a change, slight contrast to yesterday.
Certainly going to be a nice day at the races today here in Cheltenham. It's
gorgeous
through the windows.
Absolutely. Let's have a look. Where's everybody joining us from today? Morning, Jen. Jen's sitting there with blue skies and sunshine. Lovely. Good morning, Patterson. Nice to have you on today. So everybody's still joining us. We're just going to give it a few moments before we officially start, just to allow people to log on. And if you are just joining us, perhaps pop into the chat just to let us know where you're joining us from this morning. And maybe just pop in the chat as well, you know, what you're hoping to get out of the webinar this morning. Let us know why you've joined, what sparked your interest with our webinar this morning. Oh, morning, Louise from Poole. Morning, Brian in sunny Manchester. Nice. As I said, if anybody wants to just pop in the chat, you know, what you're hoping to get out of the webinar today, why you've joined us this morning, it would be great to know. Just give it a few more moments. We have had quite a lot of delegates sign up today, so we are waiting for a few more. Let's just give it one more moment as everybody logs on, and then we'll officially start. Good morning, everybody joining us at the moment. Welcome to our webinar. Okay, I think we'll probably make a start. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to another in our QSL series of webinars. Today we are hosting with First Solution Technologies based in Cheltenham. And we have a really interesting topic for you this morning, which is how to gain a competitive advantage with digital process optimization. Just a couple of housekeeping points before we start. The webinar is being recorded, so do feel free to pass it to any colleagues. Afterwards, we will send out the recording to you and details of QSL and our speakers this morning. Yeah, if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat and we will either try and answer them as we go along if it's appropriate, or we will come to them at the end. But yeah, do pop questions into the chat and we'll do our best to answer those as well. So let's make a start. Just a little bit about who we are. So we are ISO QSL, and we are specialists in helping businesses improve their management systems with internationally recognized standards of organization. And the reason why we've been hosting these webinars is because we're very keen on promoting things that are relevant to ISO, but also relevant to our client base, because we are passionate about helping businesses be more efficient. And part of all of that is about helping clients with things that are relevant to ISO, not just ISO. We can help businesses implement management systems, but we can also, we deal with ISO 9001, the Environmental Management Standard 14001, Information Security Standard, which I know is how we know First Solutions, because they have 27001, which I'm sure Tom is going to mention later, and 45001, which is Health and Safety Management Standard. And our aim is to help businesses remove the stress of implementing standards, and hopefully Tom can give us testament to that.
Absolutely.
My name is Stacey Hum, and I'm a business development specialist at ISO QSL. I've got over 16 years commercial experience, particularly in the legal sector, but through my work with that and through ISO QSL, lots of commercial experience dealing with businesses in all sorts of sectors, so very familiar with lots of the common problems and issues that SMEs come up against. And now what I'm going to do is hand over to our host for this morning, our speaker for this morning, Tom Henson. Tom is MD at First Solutions. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Stacey. That's it's great to see everyone today, or speak to everybody today, and do our presentation around process optimization and digitisation. So, as Stacey said, I'm the managing director at First Solution. I've been in the industry 20 years, and my passion has always been around bridging that gap between technology and business, what the business needs, what the business goals are, and how can technology help achieve those. It was that kind of driving mentality, that passion in me that got me involved in First Solution around 3 years ago, because First Solution as an organization, they're focused on helping customers to achieve business outcomes. That's their mindset. That's what keeps them innovating and leading the way in providing a service, not just to do the day-to-day, which is really important, and make sure it's super secure with our cybersecurity standards, but also to begin to innovate using technology, solving business challenges using technology. And we're in a new era of what technology can do, particularly for the SME and mid-market that may not have been accessible, affordable, justifiable before. And we've got well over 50 customers now that we are supporting, helping, and delivering projects into, from local businesses such as the Property Centre to and Gloucester Rugby, to kind of multinationals and UK-wide companies like Carndine Flooring and Mighty. So let's start with some of the definitions around the subject that we're talking about today. First off, process digitisation. Processes in business have been there forever. It's how we organise and operate our businesses. But we still do a lot of things with paper, and that has shifted quite a bit with COVID. There has been a shift to digitising processes, sometimes well and sometimes not so well. So we're coming in now when people are not only of a mindset to start to do some digitisation of their processes, but also to improve what they've already done. And this can be people out in the field filling in forms. It can be scanning in documentation that comes into the business. So once we're capturing data, once we're digitising the process of capturing data and the interactions people are having within a process, we can then look to automate that process, and we can start to streamline that process, take away the human elements of some of those processes, the frustrating, repetitive tasks that cause a process to be slow and inefficient. Finally, once we've got a process that's digitized, automated, it's then going around in that loop. How can we optimize that process further? How can we use kind of process optimization techniques, and machine learning, see how people are following processes through systems to optimize them further. Maybe we can look at using what they call robotic process automation, where we are starting to put bots and kind of automated systems in place to carry out processes for us. And it's probably worth saying early on in this presentation, this has been driven in our customer base, the small and medium market, that they are desperate for growth. They've got plenty of opportunities. What they can't do is find good people quickly. So how do you make more of the team that you've got? And that's where conversations around being more efficient with your processes come into play. So what are some of the common challenges that kind of start a conversation? Well, the first one is paper, a common one still, even after COVID and remote working and an adoption often of new technology systems, there is still a lot of paper in our business. Very much what we're seeing at the moment is a drive around, let's get rid of those paper forms. People are realizing that paper is the bit that's holding back a process. It's holding back the ability to adopt technology, whether it's somebody out in the field, a project manager on a construction site filling in his health and safety forms, or whether it's paper invoices still coming into the business in paper format. Efficiency. Clearly, when people are turning towards a view of their processes, the first thing that they're often looking for is to increase efficiency within their processes. Again, linking back to maybe not being able to get enough staff. So how do we do more with the same? It is equally a way to potentially save costs and reduce the burden of a process inside a business. Next up, and linking into our kind of hosts today, QSL, ISO compliance. I mean, obviously, some of the ISO standards are around quality management, efficient processes, but even things like ISO 27001, all of the ISO standards have a lot of requirements that need to be addressed as part of achieving that standard. And is it possible to do it on paper? Yes. Is it time consuming? Absolutely. Can we automate maybe some of the audit trail, the recording? Can we automate or can we enhance the way we communicate with the business when we have a non-conformance, for example? That's where we start to be able to use technology to encourage people to follow a process in the right way, highlight when a process has not been followed in the right way, and have an audit trail that we can look back to and validate in our audits with QSL that, yes, we are good. But we are in a time of transition. For the last 20 years, really, businesses are in the process of making this switch, but prior to the last kind of 5 years, we've had file servers, we've had application servers, they've been on premise in our offices. We've got applications sat on servers. Now we're moving to a different way of working, and many businesses are well on this journey to cloud services, hosted applications, data in SharePoint or on Google, not on a file server. And we have a hybrid of applications. Some still need to be on premise, some in the cloud, some hosted on a server in a data center, some applications which are modernized and have APIs to easily get data out, and some that don't. And so there's tools now that allow us to be the glue to integrate old and new applications, get data out of old and new applications, and begin to use it in the way the business needs without necessarily having to look at replacing all of the systems within a business. Hopefully we've got a poll set up ready to go. So if Stacey could kind of trigger the poll, if you could let us know, I'd be really interested to know which of those 4 challenges might be high on your agenda.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to launch the poll now and just give you a minute to answer that. So yeah, just as Tom said, just let us know what's your top challenge in business at the moment. Paper, efficiency, ISO compliance, or integration. And this is a topic that I talk to businesses about a lot. What are your most common challenges within business? And these, Tom, are definitely the top 4 that come up. So I think that's everybody answered actually. So I will end the poll there. After 30 seconds, everybody knows very quickly what their biggest challenges are, Tom. So I'll end the poll there and we can share the results as well, I believe.
Brilliant. So there they
There we
are.
go.
Efficiency. Yes, it is a big one for us. Surprised there's not more paper. It's surprising how many businesses come to us still with paper in the business, but no, efficiency is often a big driver. Again, there's a lot of businesses we talk to that have a real issue around recruitment, and so they're looking to do more with the same or more with less. Really interesting. Okay, so often the easiest way to get a grip of some of the things that process optimization, automation can do is to give some examples. Now, our first one here is not necessarily an example of a really complicated piece of technology, although it has elements of it. It literally was less than a day's work really to put this system together, and a £30 a month license from Microsoft to rent the technology engine that sits behind it. And what it was this arm of Kazoo were auctioning commercial vehicles, thousands of them, and they needed a way of processing B5 documents. In the past, they'd looked at a system, it was very expensive, not justifiable. They had somebody in the office who was responsible for processing those documents manually. Some would come in email, some would come in the post, and it would be typing data out of those documents into their systems, creating the PDFs, emailing the information around, putting it into their SharePoint database. So they said, if you could solve that problem for us without the exorbitant cost of this piece of software that could do it, we'd be really interested. We looked at the issue, and our desire is to try and deliver high return on investment solutions, and we can do that now. It was very difficult 5 years ago because you probably would have had to either develop something from scratch or pay for an expensive piece of software. But now, using cloud platforms like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, there's tools in there that are almost pre-built. A technology engine, and in this case, it was an artificial intelligent chatbot that we are renting from Microsoft for £30 a month. That allows us to do 5,000 transactions, allows the organization to do 5,000 scans, processes of this document. We just did some tweaks to it. We did a little bit of code, a little bit of tweaks, and we spent some time teaching the engine to read the forms, and then we put it onto the mailbox and allowed the system, as the V5 documents came in on email or were scanned into the system, the AI bot was now reading this information off and putting it into the database, creating the PDFs, sending out the relevant emails, all automated. The only time it's not automated is where they come in the post and we put them on a scanner into the mailbox, the bot does the rest. So what was taking about 2.5 days, 3 days a week is down to half a day a week for this business. And that person it's not about her doing less or working less or being replaced. She is now off doing far more valuable tasks within the business and allowing the business to grow. And this system, despite being low cost, high return, and not really super complicated, is being rolled out at the moment by looks at across multiple departments now within Kazoo, because they can't easily match what this system does with anything else. And it's just a really good example of actually a low cost solution that has real high return. The next one, you may not have heard of Ralph Coleman International, but if you've ever bought vegetables or fruit in a supermarket, the crates they're sat in are probably washed by Ralph Coleman. They wash around 250 million crates a year. So they are a high volume business where 1 second saved has a significant benefit to the business. Their challenge when we first started to talk to them was there were multiple challenges, but one of them they really wanted to get right first was around inconsistency of data. And this is another benefit of process digitization. If we can capture data and make it easy for people to enter data, then you get consistency of data that can then be reported on and used and manipulated and automated. So we created, it had to be really simple because you're in a big warehouse with drivers and people moving around a lot, and a damp environment as well. So we created a very simple app with some text fields, some drop-down options, some big buttons, really quick. Again, we leveraged the Microsoft platform in this case to have those building blocks. We weren't building anything from scratch. We weren't doing anything bespoke. We were taking what we call a low-code approach, which means much lower cost than developing something from the ground up, and but an equal or better kind of solution in the end. What they got was consistent and effective reporting of late lorries, which doesn't sound like a big thing necessarily, but for them, they would face fines if they weren't able to deliver X amount of crates to supermarkets. If they can show that actually that was down to the lorry drivers not turning up on time, those fines don't have to be paid. So this had a significant return, again, a low-cost solution that will save them tens of thousands of pounds every year by being able to report on this data accurately. So as I said at the start of the presentation, our focus is on business outcomes. Technology is a toolkit. It's a very advanced toolkit that we can turn to, but it's not the golden chalice. It's delivering the outcome to the business that's the sign of success, making a difference, solving a challenge, helping a business grow. So what are the common business outcomes that we start to help businesses with? And when we're going into a process like this, we very much start at the top of the business: objectives, challenges, mission, values, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year strategy. What is the business trying to achieve? Because we can understand how technology can help with that. And it's very difficult for a lot of our customers to know even where technology could help. You don't know what you don't know, and that's where we can build that bridge. So it's interesting. This is first on our list because it is one of the most popular things, and also was top of our poll: increased operational efficiency. So a process can be fully automated, partially automated, accurate, and removed of errors. So it's faster processes, less errors. Business outcome number 2, employee satisfaction. Now, this is one that isn't necessarily front and center of people's minds when they're thinking of what process automation, digitization of processes using technology can do. But actually, increasingly, well, first of all, staff don't want to be doing repetitive, frustrating tasks. They want to be doing something that has high value to a business. So we take away some of the repetition. We allow them to have a standard process to follow that's enabled by technology, and we provide them opportunity to focus on more valuable things into the business. We also do work around things like intranets and employee engagement that sit around and on the outside of process automation maybe, but can link in. There's an element of data within larger companies around employee satisfaction, and being able to get insights. We'll talk about data insights in a little bit, but being able to get data insights into what keeps staff happy. How do you increase your staff retention? It's not something that we've been able to necessarily look at before. It's much easier now. Number 3, easily scalable. So it's difficult to scale people sometimes. It is easy to scale, easier to scale technology. That AI chatbot that I talked about earlier will never need to be trained again. It's using a natural artificial intelligence engine to not just regurgitate what we've taught it, but to understand what it's looking at and be able to say, well, that piece of text that was there is now down there, but it's the same format, it's the same words, so that's the same thing. And maybe it will double check sometimes with a human operative just to make sure, but it is intelligent. It never needs to be taught again. If the member of staff leaves, you've got to teach them how to do the process. You've got to correct their errors when they make them. So you can create, when you're helping your staff with technology and you want to bring on staff, it's much easier for them to adopt and come into a really efficient, automated business environment than one that is paper-based, clunky, error-strewn. Innovating where your competitors are not. So this is where it gets really quite interesting for us. We often start with coming in for looking at those quick wins. Where can we make a difference within a process, within an inefficiency? Businesses often know where they are frustrated with the way something is operating. Once we've shown what some of the technology can do, businesses are then often moved to a mindset of, actually, well, this is interesting. How can we start to use some of this to innovate and do things differently, to communicate with our staff differently, to communicate with our customers differently, to be able to make decisions faster than our competitors. And the technology that we are using in these cloud platforms that we're subscribing to on a pay-per-user basis, so it's kind of the costs are right size for the business, but the technology underneath, it's the same whether you're Coca-Cola or whether you're First Solution or QSL. It's the same technology engine. So now that ability to innovate and have access to quite advanced technology that may have only been available to big enterprises 5 years ago, anybody has access to it now. And where we could help those smaller businesses is understanding what that technology can do. And we have conversations with our customers around, again, not just fixing problems, but trying to start to think about where your business is going. What's your horizon 1, 2, and 3 thinking? Where would your business be next year, 3 years' time? How can you differentiate yourself in the market? And it's worth noting here, where we've got the word competitors, is lots of people are starting to turn to this. So if you're not already thinking about how you can innovate, how you can use technology to reduce costs, create a better experience for customers, your competitors probably will be, or will be soon. Just mentioned customer experience. So some of the best innovation comes around creating customer experience or better customer experience. How can technology help this? It can be in quick and smooth communication. It can be in how tickets are escalated inside a business. It can be a customer portal that they have access to that is providing real-time insights into whatever service it is that you're providing. It could be what we call multi-channel or omni-channel platforms of communication. I mean, certainly in the business to consumer space, consumers now want to be able to communicate not just via email and phone. They want to be able to WhatsApp. They want to be able to Zoom. They want to be able to go onto a web chat, all these different channels, and have the same conversation across multiple channels, leading hopefully to a sale for the business. And how's that managed? Again, that comes down to technology. It's only really manageable using technology. And what does all this ultimately revolve around most of the time? Maximize profitability. That's often at the core of why businesses will make these decisions to take these actions. It's about being more efficient, getting more customers, being able to do more with the same, driving profitability, maximizing profitability. And again, I'll say here, this may not have been possible for the SME and mid-market space 5 years ago, because the costs involved in doing this were too high. They were out of reach, and there weren't maybe the people around to support this. And this has changed. The technology is accessible and can be often, actually, sometimes some of these things are included in existing subscriptions people are already paying for. They're just not using what's there. And if they need to go for the advanced features, you do it as much as you need it. You pay for what you use. So just turning it back around to our kind of relationship with QSL, and we have say 27,001 internally through QSL, and but often when we're looking at process automation, it's actually around 9,001 that companies are working through, and it's making them think, how can we provide a better ensure our products and services meet our customers' needs in a consistent way of doing things. Technology, the word consistent and technology, I mean, they go together really well, because that is when you start to digitize a process, when you start to automate a process, you are getting a much higher level of consistency. You're able to see maybe where errors are happening and where inconsistencies are happening, and put them right. And those may have been difficult to see if it was a paper-based or emails or Word documents or spreadsheets. Automating repetitive tasks, 9001, 27001 can be seen as a bit of a burden to a business, particularly a smaller business. It's important for us. 27001 from a cybersecurity perspective is vital to be able to demonstrate our commitment to that standard. But there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining that standard, and technology, process automation can really help reduce the burden of implementing these standards. And again, with reminders, notifications of when an audit's coming up, when you need to do X, Y, Z, when a non-conformance happens, all of these things can be automated, captured, reported on. Now, talking of reported on, that brings us nicely into data visualization. If you're capturing data well, you're processing data well, you can output data well. And that's another huge area for us, is often around Power BI, business insights. Again, it's become much more accessible to businesses, and businesses have vast quantities of data that they want to be able to use, often in different systems, and they've not been able to get access to. And now, using the process automation piece and the technology to interact and integrate multiple systems, we're able to get at all this data. We're able to sort it, and I quite like this graphic. It's a really good way of thinking about visualizing data. Data in its raw format is just Lego bricks in a box. You can sort it, and that's something we've done for many years as businesses. We can arrange it. Maybe we can even visually present it to a degree quite well. But when data becomes useful is when you can tell a story with that data, when you can look at a dashboard and straight away you can see where your business opportunity lies or your business problem sits. Data visualization, how can we represent data in a way that we can understand? How can we give our customers visibility of what's going on in their business in real time, using graphs and charts, and the ability to click into that data very easily and see how that data may change with doing different things. So humans process visual data far faster than they do spreadsheets and lots of numbers. Where 65% of humans are visual learners. It's very difficult for most people, if you've just got a big spreadsheet of data, to see a trend in that data. It's almost impossible if you've actually got a spreadsheet from your health and safety system or your HR system or your project management system and a spreadsheet from your finance system to then look at those two and see how they interact. It's virtually impossible. But data visualization, data insights, bringing data from these different sources and creating a story that is easily understandable, it's making a real difference in our businesses and our customers. Just to liven things up a little bit, I have got a little video here that just captures the imagination, maybe with, this is Power BI and some of the kind of visuals that you can get within it. And credit to Jack there, who's our marketing manager, who put that video together. It's a nice, catchy little video that sums up how data and just gives you some idea of some of the visualizations that you can get that can make a difference to your business decisions. And the skill there's many people out there that can create dashboards now, and even in Power BI. And again, it's another one of those tools. It's a low-cost tool, and actually part of it is free within 365 subscriptions to start with. Where the skill is there, and where we have developed a specialism, I suppose, is extracting from our customers what actually it is they're trying to see in their data, because again, you do not know what you don't know. We don't go into a conversation often with a customer and they say, I want this, I want this, I want this. Or if they do, that's not necessarily where they end up, because when you start to ask why and drill into the reasons, you start to really you start to understand the problem the business is trying to solve, understand the modeling the business is trying to do, and then you can really create a meaningful dashboard and report. So first of all, I will say, if anybody just wants to talk about this more, wants to know how you can go about this journey, I think there's a lot of information in today, and it's difficult sometimes to think about how this applies to your business. So first of all, by all means, reach out, speak to myself or the team here, and we can help you understand the journey, what it looks like, talk in a bit more detail about some of the things I've talked about today. We do have an online automation ready assessment, which will help you understand how ready you are for automation. I think after this presentation, a link will be sent around to everyone if you would like to complete that assessment. And it's a great little starting point, great tool just to get the journey started. After that, what we normally do with customers, when we've had an introductory conversation, we understand some of the frustrations. We'll start with the free discovery workshop. We'll try and understand those systems, processes in place, the pain points, the desired outcomes, what's the business trying to achieve. And we'll often look to identify where we're going to start. Again, not many businesses know technology can help. They don't necessarily know where to focus first. And we can really help with getting some of those quick wins, those high value returns. Once we've done our free discovery workshop, we're then into a position where we're then starting to actually make a change, implement some of those tools and make those improvements within your business. So I would like to open up the floor really to any questions that anybody may have today.
So yeah, we have had a couple of questions actually, Tom. Thank you for that. That was really interesting, and there's so much synergy there between what you guys do and how that fits with ISO, and I think that we take a very similar approach to things, which is to start with that question: what are you trying to achieve out of all of this? That's always my key question to people that I'm speaking to. So one question that we've had, obviously this has been around for a long time, Tom. This isn't a new concept, digitisation. You mentioned it's been around a long time, but there's obviously been a shift towards this more recently. But do you feel that, previously people, particularly SMEs, have found this perhaps unaffordable, unattainable for them? So what's changed now? I think you've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but is there things that have changed? How do you make this more affordable for the SME market?
Absolutely. So yeah, I touched on it a little bit there, but the shift that's happened has been the move into these modern workplace cloud platforms. That might be some of the lingo that we would use in the industry over the last 5 years. It's commoditized a lot of what businesses like ours would have done in the past. We don't sell servers now, really. It's mostly hosting, it's cloud-based applications. And what that does, it takes a lot of these technologies that would have been in the past. If you were an enterprise, you may have had SAP or Dynamics or another big system that would have taken care of some of this stuff. Still, maybe not as well as you can now. But those systems are often out of reach, particularly if you want to do some of what we've talked about today, the add-ons and the customization within those systems, which would have been astronomically out of reach, and the change within a business, most businesses wouldn't be ready for them. So over the last 5 years, led by Microsoft, Google, Amazon, technologies and cloud-based services have come online on a subscription-based service where you pay for what you use. And that changes the game. I was at a conference coming up probably about 2.5 years ago now. It was a Microsoft conference, and they said, "Look, we're done. We've put out so much technology out there. We'll continue to add to it, but it's down to you now, kind of to help your customers go and use this technology. We have the most advanced AI engines we can build available for you to subscribe to on a pound for pound basis to use as much as you want." So both the front end technology, things like chatbots, AI engines, the automation of processes, low code apps, all these things, which is tech lingo that doesn't necessarily mean a lot to people, but all this technology actually underpins solving some of those challenges, can now be deployed very cost effectively. The back end stuff that would have used to be very expensive, the databases, the servers, the systems, again, now pay for what you use. If you want some storage to store some PDFs that you're capturing through your process, you can store stuff for pennies in these cloud platforms now. So, and again, you don't pay, you're using the same system that the biggest companies in the world are using, but you're only paying for what you use. And because they've done so much of that groundwork, so much of the foundation, and we're coming in and taking something that's 80% created, the cost for developing the extra bits and bringing these building blocks together is far, far lower, far more justifiable to solve the problems that businesses have.
Yeah, no, fabulous. I mean, it just sounds like it's just so much more accessible now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fabulous. And another question that we've had, and I think that really ties into that really, is that what sort of support from a funding perspective is available for SMEs for this type of thing? Are you aware of any support that businesses can get to help them with these projects?
Yeah, so there's grants within local authorities that people can apply for, especially after COVID. There was quite a lot of schemes launched, a lot of which apply to using technology. They're all different, so different areas have different kind of requirements. But if you speak to your local LEP, that's normally a good place to start. The other big thing which so many companies still don't take advantage of is R&D tax credits.
Absolutely.
This is not only potentially reducing your tax bill, but can actually lead to a rebate of tax into the business. And people don't necessarily think what they're doing is R&D. So often it is. If you're using technology to solve a problem, that problem is probably unique to your business, and you're probably deploying technology in a way that is unique to your business, especially with what we've talked about today. It may be using many of the similar building blocks of other companies, but it will have a level of uniqueness that absolutely means it would apply for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really pleased you mentioned that one, Tom, because that's one that we always promote as well, is the R&D tax credits. We've claimed that as a business ourselves and have done very well out of that. Something we promote to anybody who's implementing ISO or indeed any kind of change into their business. So if there is anybody on the webinar at the moment that wants any contact in relation to that, we've got some really good links with a business that can help with R&D tax credits. But yeah, that's a brilliant way of funding any project like this. Fabulous. We've got another question as well, and I think this ties in with the sort of two questions that tie in really. Is there a bare minimum level of process needed before automation should be considered?
Do you mean in terms of the process inside the business?
I guess so. I think that's probably where the question's aiming at. Yes, I mean if it's sort of maybe if it's a small business that doesn't have a huge amount of process involved, is there sort of a bare minimum where it's not worth considering automation at that stage?
I mean, one of the things we do through our process, our discovery workshop, and scoping any solution is, for us, especially being kind of coming from the business side and focused on achieving business outcomes, money plays a part in that. There has to be a return on investment. So we will do a cost benefit analysis as part of that piece of work, because if it's not going to return more than it's going to cost, then there is no point doing it. Undoubtedly, there will be processes inside businesses where they could be automated, but the return just isn't high enough. That kind of quantity is vastly reduced by leveraging technology within cloud platforms, because you only have to pay for what you use. So this is, I suppose, why it's such a big growth area for us, because businesses have looked inside their business and they've probably assumed for many years now that all these frustrations and inefficient processes they're going to have to put up with. Actually, they're now thinking, no, I don't. Actually, that 80% of these processes now, actually, for the low cost, we can really make a difference in how these processes are performing. So I wouldn't say there's a bare minimum, because as I said, that solution earlier that I talked about with Kazoo, that was a day's work and a £30 a month license. I mean, that did lead to a big saving, but a day's work to create a chatbot and automate a process. There are many processes inside a business that would be small enough to fit into that kind of size.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. Thanks, Tom. And I think another question we've had that's along similar lines is, if businesses have got maybe what they class to be sort of lots of different systems in place, or maybe if they're a little bit outdated and not future-proofed, is that something that you can help businesses overcome as well, to sort of link everything, tie everything together?
Yes, yeah, this is another big area. Businesses are frustrated often with the technology platform they've got, but changing systems is not only potentially costly, but also impacts staff and change management in businesses. That it's not often the right time to make big sweeping changes to systems. They have to be well planned. And sometimes there's a big gap between the system they've got and maybe the kind of system they might need in 2, 3, 5 years' time when they're 3, 4 times the size. And there's not always easy to find that interim. So with these building blocks I referred to earlier, these kind of low-code solutions, we're often building around the outside of an existing piece of software, sometimes an outdated piece of software that we are making work in a more modern fashion that isn't possible within the software itself, by using these building blocks and integrating multiple systems together. So absolutely, these platforms we're using, often Microsoft, because people are using the Microsoft platform already, those platforms are helping us address that issue and create that interim solution that allows the business to continue using the software they want to use for a longer period of time, whilst reaping some of the benefits of automation and optimization.
Yeah, no, that's great, and it's about sort of taking baby steps, I suppose, for businesses, and doing what they can at the time, and doing what they've got the capacity to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. And just to touch on the questions coming on the chat, and kind of linked to that really, some of these tools, we do often, in terms of that automation piece, we often go with the Microsoft stack because people often have a subscription for Microsoft already. And in terms of the cost within the Microsoft stack, and if you wanted something to look at, if you're interested, there's Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI. Those are the 3 tools we'll often turn to in the Microsoft world. And there are others, but they're very accessible. Power Automate is free, or certainly a good chunk of it is free within most Microsoft 365 subscriptions. And you can do some very quick automations yourself, kind of using Power Automate. So that it really is quite accessible and can be very low cost, because of the low entry to barrier. It really is.
And I guess, Tom, just a quick conversation with yourself, you'll be able to sort of just help businesses, point them in the right direction, and just so that they can perhaps do a little bit of research themselves to find out something that might suit them.
Absolutely. So we're always willing to have a conversation, just to understand some of the challenges and talk about whether these technologies can help. Our focus is on helping businesses. If the technology isn't right for them, or if it's not the right fit, then that's fine. But we're happy to have the conversation, explore what's possible, and see if it's worth developing further. It is one of those things that there's no product. It's not come and buy this. It is very much understand issues, listen to what the challenges of a business is, and then start to do a discovery workshop, start to kind of art of the possible, we'll often call it, where we're going in, opening up people's eyes and showing them things they hadn't thought about, and just talking about that clunky process that you know is clunky, but you don't really know what to do with it. We can start to talk through what it might look like if it was automated, and start to get kind of rough ideas of costs and whether it's worthwhile moving forward into something more detailed.
Fabulous. Thank you, Tom. Well, I think that's all the questions that we've had in. If anybody does have any questions after the webinar, Tom's popped his email address there, and you will have the QSL email address from the link that was sent to you originally. So if you have any questions for either of us, please do drop us a line and we will be more than happy to answer. But I think we will probably end it there with a few minutes to spare. I was hoping we'd finish by 11 and we finished with a few minutes to spare on that. So it just goes for me to say thank you all for joining us today and for your participation and questions. Thank you, Tom, for really insightful presentation there, and I think you've given us all a little bit of food for thought as to how we can, sort of digitize our businesses going forward and bring us all up to speed. So thank you very much, Tom, and just to say have a wonderful day. Enjoy your week. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.